Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this 4-day reading vlog to wrap up April and kick off May. So normally I like to wrap up months clean, but the final book support group is legitimately the first long weekend in May. So I figured two-day vlogs would be silly, so I might as well give you a 4-day one. My plan for the end of April is to finish Foxcraft because I am on page 108 of this, and it should not take me long. And it's due back to the library, so kind of a priority. I need to finish the Orphan Train, which is the last book on my Phase 10 TBR, and since I took a reward, I really have no choice but to finish this. And then I think I'd like to pick up The Closer, because this is my nonfiction of April. And I do have the audiobook out of the library right now, so I kind of like to listen to this. Otherwise, I don't have any strong, firm plans for either the end of April or the beginning of May. The only thing I can say is that I will not be touching any of the books on my final book support group TBR. Everything else is fair game. And I have multiple TBRs to choose from because I have the leftover books from April that I didn't get to that weren't on any like specific TBR, like Phase 10 or something, but were books I was hopeful to get to in April, and a lot of them are library books, so they're going to end up getting rolled over because I need to read them anyways. And then in May, I'm doing, in addition to the final book support group, round 4 of Phase Out Your TBR. So I have tons of books from my own physical TBR, my May Phase 10 TBR, and then I'm doing the Whodunit Readathon, so I have books for that as well. So I have lots of books to choose from. May is going to be a crazy month because I have probably way more books than I can possibly read in a month, but I would like to get them down because I know in June I'm going to be doing the Queer Lit Readathon. And I know with that one, I am going to have to go off of my books that I have because not a lot of them have queer rep in them right now. And I'm always, during that readathon, finding books that sound interesting that I had never heard of before, which I love about that readathon. So I try not to plan my TBR for that because I want to hear what other people are reading, look for different suggestions, and see what kind of sparks my interest at any given moment when that readathon comes around. So I don't really have anything planned, and I don't know of any books at the moment on my TBR that have queer rep. Doesn't mean that they don't exist. Just means that upon first glance, I don't look at them and go, oh yes, definitely one of my books on my queer TBR. So that being said, I am very tired. It is late, and I would like to get some sleep. So I'm going to wrap this clip up so that I can start to wind down, maybe listen to a little bit more of my audiobook, and hopefully I will check in with you on May 1st to wrap up April and then tell you what I'm feeling for the first couple days of May. So it is officially May, and I did say I was going to check in, even though this was only a 4-day vlog, to let you know what I had finished up in April. So first, I finished Orphan Train. This is a 5-star prediction, so you'll have to wait for my vlog for that. But I wanted to mention that I did finish it, and that meant that I finished my TBR. So my reward was justified. Then I finished a series by reading The Mage. I gave this 4 stars. This follows a young fox named Isla who is trying to find her family after they're attacked, and learns a lot about a bigger plot that is going on that she had no clue of because her elders were protecting her, and some magic that she didn't know foxes had. I thought this was a solid end to the series. I really liked some of the friendships that Isla made in this one. I liked seeing how her journey wrapped up and how she finally ended up where she needed to be. I thought it was intriguing, again, getting to see this journey that she's been on in the magic that she is dealing with and how that kind of came into play in the end. I thought this was a solid middle grade series with an animal POV, and if you like animal POVs and you like foxes, I would recommend you check this one out because it's a really good one. Then I caught up in a series by reading The Extremely High Tide. So this is a series that gives me Wayside School vibes. I also gave this book 4 stars. We have a new friend. He has found this interesting when I am doing my sprints and streaming and stuff. He likes to come say hi, so he's kind of become the new Cielo. Although the old Cielo hasn't gone anywhere. You may see her pop up too. So, like I said, this gives me Wayside School vibes. It is very kooky. For instance, the town of Topsy, where this is set, thinks that dogs are myths. So they're a little odd, and each of the kids that we're following has a quirk. And in the first one, we meet Davy, who is moving to this town. And then in this one, we're following Talise, who really, really loves the ocean, and there's some weird things going on with the ocean that she would like to investigate. I feel like this would be a 5-star series if I had read it when I was in middle grade because it has a lot of the elements of things I liked. Like I said, I liked Wayside School, so I feel like this would have clicked with me as well. You're killing me, Buggy. Man, easy, look at me. It's my vlog now. This has a lot of the things I really liked. He almost fell. About middle grade stories. It's, like I said, got a kooky cast of characters, but there's a lot of heart in this story too, so it's not just a bunch of giggles. I really liked how that was demonstrated in this one, and I don't know if this is all where we're going to get, because the last book came out in 2019, so this one. So I don't know if we're going to get more, but if we do, I'm totally open to it, because this is got a lot of nostalgic vibes for me with the way it's written, like I said, and what it reminds me of. So I would definitely be down to read more in this series, should the authors choose to write more. Then I read my nonfiction of the month, and that was The Closer by Mariana Rivera, and I gave this 3.5 stars. This was fine. I do feel like I learned more about Mo. And if you don't know, he is one of the most well-known ball players of the last couple of decades. He was the closing pitcher for the Yankees and is known as one of the best closers to ever play the game. And I don't know, it is not written in the way I thought it was going to be. There is little anecdotes about his life, but a lot of it is really focused on the games he played and talking about different pitches he threw and different batters he faced, and a lot of stuff I felt like I could have just learned by watching the game. But it gets a 3.5 because every once in a while he'd throw in something that I found intriguing. But there was a lot of technical talk about like the types of pitches he would throw and the situations he found himself in. And it really does dive into all of the like really big important games in his career. I just wish I had gotten to know more about the behind the scenes stuff. Like, how did he prepare? What was the training like? What were his friendships like with his teammates? Which he touched on, but it was far more about like the game of baseball than it was necessarily his personal life. And that is a perfectly fine choice. It was just different than what I was expecting. So it's a fine autobiography. Not my favorite, but not bad either. And then technically I finished this in May because I had about 20 pages left, but I read The Mona Lisa Vanishes. So this is a middle grade nonfiction that discusses the famous painting, the Mona Lisa, and how it was once stolen, which I knew nothing about, and it being stolen is kind of the thing that makes it famous. And I gave this 4.5 stars. I thought this was really fascinating. I love how the author put together the story and pointed out there was a lot more to the story than just the painting being stolen and who stole it, because it was important to understand who the subject of the Mona Lisa was, who the painter of the Mona Lisa was, who the other people surrounding the mystery were, because you had like cops and the technique that cops were using when the Mona Lisa was stolen, and you had other people who were prominent and might have been accused of the crime or had similar patterns of behavior at the time. And it was just really interesting to see him dive into the backstory of all of these characters and explain how they kind of all played a part in the greater story of the Mona Lisa. I learned a lot more about Leonardo da Vinci than I knew before. He seemed like quite the character, and like the type of guy that would have been very interesting to know. I was astonished because I did not know that the Mona Lisa had been stolen and that's why everybody knows that particular painting. So it was really fascinating hearing about the story and hearing how the Mona Lisa became known as the Mona Lisa, one of the most famous pieces of art in the world. So I really, really enjoyed my time with this and feel like I learned a lot while reading it. And then I did make progress into other books. So I picked up Sweep again. I am now on page 86. So a little bit of progress in this. This is about a young girl who is a chimney sweep, and she almost dies one day but ends up getting protected by this like would it be like piece of charcoal? It says it's a golem made from soot and ash, but she thinks it's some kind of char, I think she calls it. So like a shard of, I don't know, soot and ash that she's been carrying around, and it comes to life. And we're just kind of getting into her realizing that it's alive. So I don't really have much to say yet, but we're going to see how it goes. I'm enjoying what I've read so far. Though it doesn't feel like a new favorite at the moment, but that could change. And then the other book I started is The Many Mysteries of the Finkel Family. So this has two POVs, Laura and her sister Caroline. Caroline is 15 months younger than Laura, and Laura kind of wants to do her own thing. She starts a detective agency. She wants to solve mysteries like the heroine of her favorite book series. And Caroline wants to be involved, but Laura isn't interested in that. Unfortunately for Laura, Caroline brings her first mystery, so Caroline ends up involved, and it leads Laura to start looking into her family and realizing just how many secrets are being kept around her house. What is interesting about this book is Laura, her sister Caroline, I believe her little brother Benny, and her cousin all are autistic or have ADHD, and her dad definitely has ADHD. I know that Laura and her cousin and Caroline are all autistic, and it is interesting seeing that displayed. Caroline also speaks with like a text to speak thing because she doesn't speak out loud. So it is interesting having that kind of rep in a book. I'm not going to say this is a new favorite or anything. It feels very 3-star-ish, but I am curious to see how the book ends before I make a final determination, because I'm on page 180, so I've made really, really good progress. So it's a bit intriguing. There are things that are a bit frustrating for me, which is the lack of communication, which is why you have so many of these secrets. So I'm curious to see how that kind of wraps up in the end, because the way it wraps up could change my viewpoint of the lack of communication between members of the family. But we're going to see how it goes. So far, it is intriguing enough that I want to finish it. And yeah, I also, like I said, I love that there is neurodivergent rep in here. And this family is Jewish, so we have Jewish rep as well, which I think is really cool and is always good to see more diversity in books for younger audiences. So that is my update. I think I had a really good end of April. Now we're just going to finish the, day and a half left I have of May. Well, the first day and a half of May before I kick off the Final Book support group. So we'll see how much more I can get through. I don't really have any plans other than maybe finishing the 2 books I just mentioned that I'm in the midst of. But we'll see how it goes, and I will check in with you on Friday to wrap this vlog up. It is now Friday, and me and Cielo are here to wrap this vlog up. I had a pretty good start to May. I'm not gonna complain. I would have liked to read more, but that just wasn't in the cards. The first book I finished is The Many Mysteries of the Finkel Family, and I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. We follow 2 sisters, Caroline and Laura. And Laura is the older sister by 15 months, and she starts this detective agency and wants to do things by herself and not with her little sister. And Caroline wants to be a part of things and doesn't really understand why her sister doesn't want her to help out with the detective agency. They are both autistic, and Caroline is getting ready to start middle school. Caroline also does not speak. She has a tablet she uses to speak. So in this, we get to see numerous ways individuals can be autistic. So Laura, Caroline, their cousin who lives with them, and their little brother all are autistic. Their dad has ADHD, and it is interesting seeing the kind of differences in how this family works together with that. And then they're also Jewish, and I thought that added a really interesting component and felt really important to the story. So I thought that was an interesting addition to the diversity in this story. My reasoning for this ending up getting 3.5 stars is that I didn't feel particularly attached to any of the characters. I felt like a little bit of communication would have gone a long way. One of the things Laura does is she starts looking into this mystery her sister brings her of what is going on with their dad because their dad is acting weird. And it leads Laura to finding out a ton of secrets about her family, hence the mysteries of the Finkel family. And I just feel like there was a lack of communication on the characters' parts that led to a lot of the drama in this book, and that wasn't my favorite thing. I also felt like the cousin was just sort of there and not really fleshed out, and I just didn't understand her inclusion necessarily in the story, at least not in the role she ended up in. So I thought there were a lot of interesting things about this because I do think it does have, like I said, the diversity with having the characters be Jewish and then also seeing numerous individuals who are autistic and the different ways that can manifest in somebody, because not every person who is autistic behaves in the same manner. And I thought that was important to kind of contrast the differences in their personalities, in the way they took in information, the way they interact with others, etc. I also liked that their dad had ADHD, so that meant we had multiple different representations for neurodiversity. I liked the Jewish rep. I thought that was probably the most interesting part of the story for me, was learning a little bit more about that and having that be represented on page. So there were things I definitely liked about this, and it is definitely a book that I would say is worth picking up and at least giving a try and seeing if it is something that you will enjoy, because there were a lot of things to really like about it, but there were times I really, really struggled because I wasn't connecting with the characters. The other book I finished is Dragon Fruit. So this is a fantastical young adult story that involves dragons, which got me super excited. I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. We're following a young girl named Finlay, and Finlay is the daughter of an older family on Tamarin, the island where she lives. Unfortunately, her father ends up stealing a dragon egg meant for an ailing princess, so she and her father have to flee. There are legends that dragon eggs can give you your greatest wish, and with the princess being ailing, obviously the greatest wish would be to heal the princess, and she ends up kind of on the outskirts because her dad stole this egg. And so she feels like she can't go back home. So she ends up really getting into learning all she can about dragons in the hopes that maybe she can find another dragon egg and be able to return home and kind of make amends for what her father did. And then our other POV is Sam, and he is the prince of Tamarind, the island that Finlay left, and he is struggling. His grandmother is getting older, his mother is ill, and unless they can find a cure for what's going on with his mom, he's going to have to get married, and he really doesn't want to do that, and honestly, he'd rather just cure his mom. And he's running out of hope until a childhood friend comes home and brings with her some much-needed hope, and we see Hanalei and Sam kind of reunite and try to find a way to save Sam's mom. And of course, they aren't the only ones who are trying to get a hold of dragon fruit for their own personal reasons. So this is a really fast-paced read. I got into it very, very quickly, and there was never really any slow moments. I really enjoyed getting to learn about Hanalei and how she ended up where she was, and the kind of circumstances that had led her life to be the way that it ended up being. I liked the magic of the world because there was definitely a little bit of magic in this world. I don't want to spoil it. It's not like spells, but like there is a bit of a fantastical element besides the dragons that I will let you discover on your own, because I thought it was interesting to discover it as I read it. So I won't say what that is, but I thought that was really interesting. I liked learning about the dragons, what little they knew, and then Hanalei, who studied them, kind of filling in some more stuff that maybe Sam wasn't aware of. I like that there was this like pressure cooker situation with the idea of Sam's kind of got a deadline. He wants to cure his mom. Hanalei feels guilt for something that she didn't do. And they both realize they're kind of running out of time to, you know, save his mom. And I thought that added a lot of drama to the story. My only thing is that I was not into it being a standalone. This felt like it could have been a story that was more, and I struggle sometimes with fantasies where they're standalones and I end up wanting more because I fall in love with the world and the atmosphere. Because this is, I think it's like Pacific Island mythology. It's based in that. I think that's what it says on like Goodreads and stuff. It doesn't say it in the description, but I think that's what I read. It's definitely got some sort of mythology in it. And I found all of that kind of fascinating. And I would have liked to learn more about that. So I feel like this is a story that kind of wrapped up too quickly that I would have enjoyed had it had more to it. There were definitely twists and turns, and I definitely didn't see most of them coming. They managed to kind of keep me, she's coming anyways. I keep telling her not to, and she keeps coming anyways, y'all. And then she keeps getting caught on my shirt. Anywho, I really liked the kind of twists and turns, but it felt very rushed at the end. And I think even a duology would have made this a much stronger book, because I think you would have been able to dive into the mythology and the drama aspect of it more. And yeah, I think that's what it was missing and why it only got 3.75 stars. And then the other update I have for you is that I've made some more progress in Sweep. I'm now on page 138. I am enjoying this, but it's definitely not my favorite. It's not one I necessarily feel pulled back to once I put down. And I'm about to put it down for the weekend, so I will not be reading it again till Monday, because I'm going to focus on my Final Book Support Group TBR. But I did want to let you know that I had at least made a little bit more progress in this. And that was my end of April and start of May. Not bad, if I do say so myself. Even though I wish I could have read more, there are only so many hours in the day. That being said, I'm going to wrap this vlog up here so I can move on to the Final Book Support Group and read all of the sequels. All of my social media is linked below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me dragon emojis in honor of dragon fruit. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!